On the rugged shores of Scotland, amid grey rocks and the howling wind, lie dozens of black bodies, shiny, colossal, lifeless. They resemble pieces of a broken ship, but they're not debris. They are a family of pilot whales, stranded simultaneously. Their fins still wet, eyes open, as if waiting for something. Among them stands a woman in a green coat. Her hands are accustomed to treating sheep and dogs, but today, she's gently stroking the forehead of a creature weighing 2 tons. She doesn't know why they are here. No one knows. But the smell of blood in the air and the line of bodies along the beach say, this isn't an accident. This is something bigger. Something we don't understand. Hit like, subscribe, and let's go. She lives 15 minutes from the sea, in a stone house where the wind howls through window cracks from November to April. Alice is a veterinarian from the Isle of Lewis, 59 years old, working with sheep, dogs, and rarely, seagulls that fall with broken wings during storms. She always wakes up early, warms her hands on a mug of tea, and checks if the water in the troughs is frozen. Animals are her work and solace. She can't imagine life without wool, muddy smudges on her apron, and late-night phone calls. Her world is small, familiar, alive. But that July morning, when the local rescue center called, she didn't grab her usual first aid kit. Only a towel. And a prayerful silence. The phone rang at 6 a.m, sharp, long, insistent. Alice thought it was another farmer, but the voice on the other end was shaky. Whales. Many. On the beach. She threw a jacket over her shoulders, jumped in her car, and sped through the fog that lay on the road like ash. On the beach, people were already there. Some stood in silence. Others were crying. The first whale she saw was a male, massive, almost 3 tons, still breathing slowly, like a machine that had just stalled. Its eye flickered. Once. Then, silence. Alice knelt beside it. This wasn't like anything she'd known. Not a sheep disease. Not an injury. This was something else. And with each passing minute, more bodies washed ashore. Alice tried to help, moistening its skin, covering its eyes with a wet cloth, searching for a pulse where she couldn't find one. Within half an hour, 5 more whales lay next to her, close, like in a dream. One of them was a calf. All still warm. People whispered, maybe they're lost. Someone mentioned sonar. About military drills in these waters 2 days earlier. Seagulls flew overhead, but none landed. The body of a female began to swell, quickly, as if something inside was forcing it to rise. Alice stopped. Her jaw clenched. This wasn't just an accident. It wasn't just a tragedy. This was a warning. But from whom, and why? A gray-haired man arrived in an old Jeep with a Marine Research Center logo on the doors. His name was Callum, a former marine biologist who had seen similar cases before, in Norway, Canada, and the Faroe Islands. He unfolded a map and showed Alice something strange. Nearly all the stranding incidents in the past months had occurred near military training zones. This doesn't prove anything, he said, but it draws a shape. They started to act, marking coordinates, photographing the skin with burns, taking notes. Callum pulled out a portable hydrophone and lowered it into the water. A minute later, a low, deep, sharp impulse, like the heartbeat of a broken machine, sounded in their headphones. Alice looked out at the sea. There was something out there. And they weren't too late. When the water began to rise, there was a chance. 2 whales were still breathing, weakly, convulsively, but their hearts were beating. Callum suggested a risky move, try to push them back into the sea before the tide. They had less than an hour. Alice joined without hesitation. They called volunteers, gathered ropes, blankets, plastic sheets. People, Farmers, fishermen, schoolchildren, lined up, pouring water on the skin and pushing the giants inch by inch. One of the whales began to thrash, in panic or in a fight. Its tail slapped the water, sending a wall of spray into the air. Alice fell, her knees shot with pain, but she got up. They pushed again, and again. Inch by inch. Until, at the moment when the whale suddenly moved, slid into the tide. It was gone. The tail struck the wave. And then, silence. It was gone. Into the depths. Into life. Into something no one could explain, but everyone felt. It left. And this time, it wasn't to die. Night fell quickly, as it always does in the north. The wind calmed. The beach was deserted, leaving behind indentations from bodies and footprints that disappeared into the darkness. Alice sat on the hood of the car, wrapped in a blanket, staring at the black line of the sea. Callum silently poured her tea from a thermos. The second whale hadn't moved. All day, they had tried to get it to breathe deeper, to react. Now, it lay still, as if sleeping. Would it be forever? No one knew. Alice listened, to the waves, to the silence. It seemed that any moment, she would hear a splash, a breath, a sign. But there was only quiet. And the sea's surface, which explained nothing. At dawn, when the sky was just beginning to lighten, it moved. First, slightly. Then, noticeably. The massive male, who had lain still all night, suddenly opened his mouth, took in air, and shuddered with his entire body. Alice jumped up. Callum rushed closer. The water around him stirred as he, slowly but surely, attempted to move. One motion, and then another. People shouted. Someone cried. The whale began to swim, then glided with the tide. Its tail slapped the wave. And that was it. Silence. It disappeared. Into the depths. Into life. Alice no longer hears the surf the same way. Now every wave carries a memory, the weight of a body that breathed for the last time, the cold skin beneath her hands, the majesty she couldn't save but could honor. She returned to her clinic, to dogs and sheep, but something remained with her on that beach. Callum sent the report, and added, similar incidents have increased. They don't know why. But they know that they must be there when nature calls for help. Sometimes, in silence. Sometimes, in a cry. One saved whale doesn't change the world. But it changes a person. And that's enough to keep going. This story is just one of many that happen in the world when animals and humans stand on the edge between life and death. Sometimes rescue seems impossible, but every step, every action can change everything. We all have our role in this world, and even small acts can make a big difference. So, when you see an animal in need of help, don't turn away. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Your thoughts are important to us. Leave a comment below, and don't forget to subscribe to see more. Thank you for watching.